Hello guys, welcome to Temporary Channel. Today we will talk about the history of how the classification of organisms as it is today. Have you ever imagined how scientists came up with the six kingdoms we have now? How about how they are classified? Or where do the names came from? Curious yet? Because if you do, well stay tuned and watch the rest of the video. First off, let's introduce taxonomy.
Taxonomy. Taxonomy, for the information of the many, simply means arrangement law. It is the science behind the classification of the organisms to create a globally shared classification system with each organisms grouped into more inclusive classes. This organization, from larger to smaller, more precise division, is called the taxonomic classification system. To make it simpler, organisms are categorized based on how they are similar to each other. Similarity in their characteristics, I might add, like how dogs and cats are the same that they are categorized as animals. This classification system has been evolving since it was first introduced by Carolus Linnaeus. Now, let's travel through time and see how the scientists came up with the classification system we have today. So, hop in! Sir Carolus Linnaeus. Carolus Linnaeus, born on May 23, 1707, was a Swedish botanist, zoologist, and physician who came up with the oldest system of classification. In his book Systema Naturae, published in the year 1735, he divided the organisms into two kingdoms, namely Plantae for plants and Animalia for animals.
Ernest Haeckel followed the footsteps of Linnaeus and came up with his version of the three-kingdom classification system. Ernst Haeckel, born on February 16, 1834, was a German zoologist, naturalist. He put forward the addition of kingdom protesta in his three-kingdom classification system, which includes a variety of organisms with no shape complexities, tissue structure, division of labor, and diversified sources of nutrition. Protista is known for all organisms that do not fit into the other kingdoms of life. In short, the trash bag in the classification system. The next big shift of the classification of lower types was the development of concepts of the composition of the biotic world. Edward Chaton, born October 11, 1883, a French biologist, first introduced and characterized prokaryotes or bacteria and eukaryotes or nucleated cell organisms. Chaton coined the terms and published them first in his 1925 paper, Pansporella Perplex. Prokaryotes are unicellular organisms that lack organelles or other internal membrane-bound structures. Examples are bacteria and archaea, while eukaryotes refer to any of the single-celled or multicellular organisms whose cell contains distinct membrane-bound nucleus. Examples are animals, plant, fungi, and protists. After Chatham's new discovery, a new kingdom emerged as a particular biologist was also hooked by the classification system named Herbert Copeland. Herbert Copeland, born on May 21, 1902, was an American biologist who contributed to the addition of the Monera kingdom in the classification system. Most Monerans are unicellular organisms. Their cell structure lacks organelles like mitochondria, lysosome, Golgi bodies, etc. They reproduce sexually by binary fission. This kingdom accommodated all the prokaryotic protists with incipient nucleus like bacteria. Monera was first proposed as a phylum, then elevated to the kingdom as it is known today.
After that, Robert Whittaker came to the rescue as fungi was not properly placed in any of the kingdom.
Robert Whittaker, born on December 27, 1920, was a plant ecologist, who set forth the five-kingdom system of classification, namely Prokaryota, Protista, Fungi, Metaphyta, and Metazoa. He appealed to a combined ecological and evolutionary approach to create a separate kingdom for fungi, because fungi were united by their ecological role as decomposers. Organisms of the kingdom fungi includes the yeast, rusts, smut, mildew, molds, and mushrooms.
When the classification system was first proposed by biologists, its classification was based primarily on an organism's physical features, which is why the five kingdoms persisted. However, there were still organisms that were hard to classify into the existing system. And then came Carl Woese, who made a new discovery and development in the classification method that gave rise to the Sixth Kingdom.
Carl Woese is an American microbiologist and biophysicist who used the genetic relationships in classifying organisms. Woese studied with the gene sequencing in the early 1970s, where he was able to see patterns in the structure of life and noticed a difference in a bacterium's genetic makeup. This discovery of Woese led to the emergence of archaea, and making it three domains instead of two, namely domain bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. Furthermore, based on the ribonucleic acid studies, since the discovery of the third domain, kingdom Monera was then divided into two groups, called Archaebacteria and Eubacteria.
And that concludes how the Sixth Kingdom of classification developed over time.